Hello everyone, welcome back to Math Online. I'm Mr. Solis, and on today's video we will talk about using the tangent ratio to find missing sides. So the main objective for today will be students will be able to use the tangent ratio to find a missing side of a right triangle. Okay, so similar to what we did on the previous videos, we will be using the tangent ratio to find for missing sides, the missing lanes of a right triangle. Okay, so let's get started. But before we do that, I do want to talk about one little quick topic that we need to refresh before we move on. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. So here it is. Here's how we name the places on the right of the decimal point. This is important because some of our questions will ask us to give round an answer to the nearest tenth, to the nearest hundreds, to the nearest thousands, to the nearest 10,000s, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now I believe on this assignment we're only going to need the tens and the 10,000s. Okay. So like I said, the rest will be just for your information in case you need it for any other problems that you encounter. Okay. So let's go ahead and do this. So let's move on to the next slide. Just keep this in mind because we're going to need it. All right. So before we start, I do understand that we all have different types of calculators, right? Except in the classroom, we have the same type of calculator that we use. But when you're at home, you might have a different calculator than mine. I have an iPhone, so I could use that calculator to solve these problems. Or maybe you're using an Android, right? Which is a whole different system. So the calculator that you have might be a little bit different than mine. But here are the steps in order to solve these problems. So using your calculator, use your calculator to find the exact value of the tangent ratio of any angle. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode and not in radians. It must be in degrees, otherwise you're going to get the wrong answer. Type the angle value, then press the tangent key. Tangent. All right, so the question says, find the value rounded to the nearest 10,000s. So that means that we need how many decimal places? Let's go back to our slide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10,000s, right? So that's 4 different values, but I'm actually going to focus on the 5th value as well. You'll see why right now in a second. So let's go back to the question. In order to round this to the nearest 10,000s, we're actually going to go on the web. We're going to go to Google, regular Google, and we're going to type in decimals, right? So decimals, and it should be the very first one, decimals.com. So if you press decimals, beautiful free math, you'll click on that, and it's going to take you to this page, right? Which is the main homepage of decimals. So what you want to do is click on here, this option that says instead of start graphing, no, you're going to click on, or you can actually use that, but I found this a little bit easier for you guys. If you click on scientific, it actually gives you a calculator to use, right? And it has all the functions. Notice that it already says degrees. If you click in here, it changes to radian, but you don't want radian, so I'm just going to leave it in degrees. Okay, so here we go. So now we're going to press tangent, and once you press tangent, you're going to press your angle, which was 77 degrees, so 7, 7, right? And as you can see, it already gives you the answer, right? So it tells you your answer shows up on this side. So this is your answer, but remember, we only want 4 decimal places, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So 3, 3, 1, 4. But since you're looking for the 10,000s, actually I'm gonna try to copy and paste 5 digits here, the 5 digits after the decimal point. Let me see if it works. Copy. Let's go back to our slides, and I'm gonna paste it here. Paste. All right, so there's our answer. So now we need to round our answer to the nearest 10,000. So we understand that we need 4 values after the decimal point, and there it is, 3314. But when you round it, what you do is look at the next value, right? The next value after the 10,000 is 7. If that number, if the 7 is 5 or bigger, then all you do is increase your 10,000 value. 1 more unit. We're going to say that our answer is, let me just move this, guys, so we can actually type in our answer. So we're going to say that our answer is 4.331. Instead of 4, we're going to say 5. Okay, so that's how you round to the nearest 10,000. You look at the 4 values that you have. Those are the 4 values that you need, but since you're rounding, right, You look at the fifth value and say, well, if that number is 5 or bigger, then I have to make the 10,000s place 1 unit bigger. If the 7 was not there, so let's say that we had a 4, right? Instead of a 7, we had a 4, then the 10,000 value would remain the same. Okay, so that's the only difference. If the next value is 5 or bigger, then you'd round it up to the next number. But if it's not, if it's less than 5, then just leave it alone. Leave it the same. Okay, so that would be our answer in this case. All right, let's move on to the next one. Before we solve this problem, give it a try. Pause the video, try it, and then unpause it to look at the answer. All right, so for the rest of you guys, tangent of 46. Here we go. So tangent of 46, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to our calculator. We're going to clear the screen first of all. So we're going to say tangent of 46 degrees is equal to these values, right? So let me go ahead and copy this again. This is a good example. We're going to see the next scenario. So paste. So there it is. And remember, we're still rounding to the nearest 10,000. So I'm going to go ahead and underline this. Rounding to the nearest 10,000. And for the 10,000, we just need 4 decimal values, right? So 4 decimal places. All right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this 5 here is the 10,000th place, right? So we're going to look onto the next value. And we say, is this number 5 or bigger? And you guys would say, no. Therefore, our 5 here will remain the same. So we will write our answer as 1.035. And that's it. That's our answer. A little sloppy, but once again, guys, I'm using a mouse, so it's a little hard to write these numbers in words. Okay, so I hope that helps. It's just to get you familiar with using a calculator and finding the value of tangent of any angle. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. All right, so now we have example number 5. Find the length of the missing leg. Round to the nearest. What does it say there? To the nearest 10th. So we just need the 10th value. Okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is, first of all, we need to identify where is the 90-degree angle. Right? We're going to do the same thing we've been doing. It doesn't change. And we need to identify the angle of interest. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. Those are the 2 things we need to identify first of all. Okay. The first step is to identify the 90-degree angle. The 90-degree angle on the right triangle is always the corner where you see a little box. So across the 90-degree angle, you always find what side, guys? Hypotenuse. Bingo. It's the hypotenuse. Always across the 90-degree angle, you will always find the hypotenuse. Okay. All right. Next, the angle of interest. The angle of interest will be inside the right triangle as well, and it'll be a number. So therefore, it has to be this 62 degrees, right? If you see this little tiny circle here, that means degrees. So therefore, you know that this is the angle of interest. 19 cannot be the angle of interest because it doesn't have a little tiny circle, meaning that it's not an angle. X doesn't have a little circle, so that's not a degree either. That's the length of a side. 19 is the length of a side, so 62 must be the angle of interest. All right, so now that we found the angle of interest, we know that across the angle of interest, we will always find what side, guys? Opposite. Across the angle of interest, you will always find the opposite side, okay? Therefore, the 19 will be the adjacent side by default, okay? All right, so hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. And since we're dealing with tangent ratios today only, we'll say tangent of what angle today? What is the angle of interest? The angle of interest is 62 in this case. 62. Okay. All right, there it is. So this is equal to opposite over adjacent, right? So now let's substitute those values. So we're going to say tangent of 62 degrees is equal to, what's the value of opposite side, guys? Oh, we don't know. It's just an x. That's what we want to find out. There it is. Over a. What is the value of a? Oh, 19. Okay, good. All right, there once again. We have a number, tangent of 62, is equal to a fraction. Since we have a fraction on one side, I would always recommend just make the other side a fraction as well so we could have a proportion. So in order to make this number into a fraction, we need to write it over 1. Okay, we talked about this. All right, so now that we have a proportion, a fraction equal to a fraction, we're going to apply the cross product rule. And the cross product rule allows us to multiply across. So we're going to say 1 times x, and that'll give us x, right? X times 1 is just x, equal to tangent of 62 degrees times 19. So I'm going to write, I'm actually going to write the number first. 19 times tangent of 62 degrees. Right, guys? Okay, there it is. So now, is our x isolated? Is the x by itself? Yes, it is. Great. So that makes our life easier. We don't have to divide by anything because x is already by itself. So all we have to do is calculate 19 times tangent of 62. And the way we do that is by going to our calculator, clearing the screen, and typing in 19 times, what was that, guys? Tangent of 62 degrees. And there it is. It gives us our answer. So here we go. Boom. I'm going to copy and paste all of this. And I'll paste it right here. Paste. Let's see. All right. It's a little bit small. No big deal. So here it is. Now remember, we're rounding to the 10th place. So that means that we only need the first value, which is 7. But remember, we're rounding this. So we have to look to the next value and look at that number, which is 3 now, right? Is this 5 or bigger? No, it's not. So therefore, the 7 will remain the same. So we're going to say that our final answer is x is equal to 35.7. So the measurement of the missing leg is 35.7 units. All right, so let's do one more example. All right, so this is the time where you would try it. So what I recommend is stop the video for now. Try it on your own, please. Try it on your own, okay? Use the tangent ratio. Identify who's the opposite, who's the adjacent side, who's the hypotenuse, and then use the tangent ratio to solve for the missing leg. So please stop the video, try it, and then unpause the video, okay? All right, for the rest of us, let's do this. All right, so once again, we need to understand two things, okay? So we need to identify the 90-degree angle. Where is the 90-degree angle? And everyone should be saying where the box is. Great. Next step, we need to identify where the angle of interest is at, okay? So two things. First of all, I believe all of us know where the 90-degree angle is at, okay? The 90-degree angle is always located on the little box. This box means 90-degree angle. So therefore, across this 90-degree angle, we always find the hypotenuse. Great. Awesome. All right, moving on. Now, the angle of interest. Let's look for the angle of interest. The angle of interest will always be the number that has that tiny little circle on the right side. Okay, so does this value have a little circle on the right side? Nope. Does the 10 have a little tiny circle on the right side? Nope. Does the 63 have a tiny little circle? Oh, yes. The 63 has a tiny little circle. That little circle means degrees. So 63 degrees. So therefore, this is the angle of interest right there. Okay, so across the angle of interest, we will always find what side? Opposite. So therefore, the leg with the X is known as the adjacent side. Great. Actually, let me use a different color. So let me rewrite that again with a different color so we can see that this is the adjacent side, okay, by default. All right, so now remember, today's lesson is just about tangents, okay, tangent ratios. So therefore, we're going to say that tangent of what is the angle of interest? 63 degrees should be equal to what ratio? You guys should know this by now. It's been the same ratio over and over again. It's opposite over adjacent. That is for tangent all the time. Doesn't change unless you have sine and cosine. But we're not doing sine and cosine. Okay? It's just tangent today. Okay? All right. So here we go. So tangent of 63 is equal to opposite over adjacent. So now let's substitute these values, and actually let me move this up so we have enough space. Okay, so therefore let's substitute the values again. So tangent of 63 degrees is equal to the opposite side is 10 units. The adjacent side is unknown, so we put an x. And once again, we have an equation where we have a number equal to a fraction. That is not cool, so what we must do is convert this number into a fraction so that we have a nice proportion. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's convert tangent of 63 into a fraction by writing it over 1. Now that we have a proportion, a fraction equal to another fraction, we could use the cross product rule, right? Where we multiply across like a diagonal, right? So here we go. I'm going to start off with this. It doesn't matter what you start off with. It'll give you the same answer, okay? So I'm going to start off with, let's see, tangent. Tangent of 63 degrees times x. That'll be my first move. So I'm going to say x times, right? I always like to start with the value, with the number, with the variable when it comes to tangent. So x times tangent. It will make your life easier, guys, if you do this. X times tangent of 63 degrees is equal to, what's the next product? 1 times 10, or 10 times 1. What does that give us? 10, right? It's just 1 times 10, 10 times 1. Same thing, 10. You can write the entire product if you want. What I mean by that is 10 times 1, but you don't have to, because you already know what that is. So therefore, I'm going to go ahead and just leave it at 10, because 10 times 1 is 10. So now we have a nice and simple equation that we need to solve for. We need to isolate x. We need to leave x by itself. So therefore, we do the opposite of what the operation is. In this case, the operation is multiplication. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So we're going to divide by tangent. Tangent, once again. So tangent of 63 degrees. And what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. You have to be fair. So tangent of 63 degrees. There it is. And remember, a number over itself is just 1, right? So this doesn't cross out, it becomes 1. So x times 1 is just x, equal to, and I don't know what this number is, so we need to go to our calculator. 10 divide tangent of 63 degrees. Okay, so let's go to our calculator. Let's clear the screen, and we'll type in 10 divide tangent of 63 degrees. It gives us our answer. So it gives us our answer. I highlight this. I'm going to copy and paste it so that we can see it over here. And I'm going to paste it right here. There it is. Paste. All right. Once again, you are rounding to the nearest tenth. So that means that you only need one value, right? After the decimal place. So there it is. The 0 is our value. But we need to look at the next value after the tens place and say, is that number 5 or bigger? Yes, it is. So therefore, the 0 will become 1 unit bigger, right? So instead of saying 5.0, we're going to say 5.1. And ta-da, we're done for today. X is equal to 5.1, or the value of x is 5.1, or the length of the adjacent side is 5.1 units. Okay, so that's the lesson for today. Hopefully it was helpful. This will help you to do all the assignments of the week. Remember that there will be quizzes on Friday. For this Friday, it won't be a handout. It'll be on quizzes. I will give you the link so that you can just click on it, join in. Make sure that you put your first name, last name, and the period. So, for example, if your name is Jennifer, if your last name is Lopez, and you're from second period, you'll say Jennifer Lopez period 2, or you could say Jennifer Lopez P.2, and so on and so forth. Okay. All right, guys. Hopefully you guys find this video helpful. So if you guys have any questions, please send me an email, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. And without further ado, let's close this video. And remember, we teach a new lesson like this one almost every single day. I'm Mrs. Solis, and I'll see you on the next one.